Alright, so I just saw yesterday that Chase Ross just came out with a new video about trans guys and toxic masculinity. Yeah, I don't really think there's that much I need to say to introduce this video. I'm just gonna go right into it.
Hey guys, it's me, Chasey Poo. Today I am doing a funny video because I'm wearing pink and the background is purpley pink and you saw the title. Today is a video that's weird. Why would Chase Ross make this video? It's okay to be masculine. Oh shit, what is that concept? I made a video about a year ago where I talk about how it's okay as trans men to embrace your femininity and to show the world that you are you, and to not give a damn about what anyone else says. And I am like this. I've been like this forever. I mean, in the beginning of my transition, I was like overcompensating that masculinity because I wanted to pass. But after I realized that like people are dumb and like all they care about is all these like stereotypes, and I started to get facial hair and stuff like that, I realized I can be whoever I am and it really doesn't matter anymore because I don't care what people think.
Okay, so just in response to a few things you said there, I'm glad you don't care what people think, Chase. But I think what you're overlooking there is that you said, first of all, you overcompensated looking masculine so you could pass, which is what plenty of trans guys do. And then once you started growing facial hair and stuff, you started to look more feminine, which makes sense because, again, you wanted to pass. Once you started to pass more, you didn't care as much. But you're kind of overlooking that. You're just glossing over that and saying, oh, it's society. I used to care what society thinks and now I don't care. But it's not all about society, Chase. I'm sure a lot of the pressure was coming from yourself because you wanted to pass and you were worried that when you did feminine things, you would look like a girl. And that's unfortunately just the way it is. Like, why are you blaming this on society, Chase? Like, he has to blame every single thing on society.
And I did have the privilege to be able to transition and do that. I am definitely aware and I acknowledge that.
Oh, of course, you have to bow down and acknowledge your privilege. Now, I will acknowledge that is a legitimate privilege that you have the money and support to transition. That is a legitimate privilege. Not everybody can do that. But you don't have to acknowledge that all the time. Like, why do you have to acknowledge that? Like, most people who are lucky to have the money and resources and support to transition know that. Why is that something that they need to acknowledge? I don't get it.
But basically, it's the concept that it's okay to wear pink and it's okay to talk with your hands. Yo, I talk with my hands all the time. If you go to my videos and you look at the comments, people are like, why did you transition to be a gay man? What? These people are really confused about what's going on because I don't identify as gay. I'm queer, get it right. Anyway, so today's topic, I'm going to be talking about how it's okay to be masculine because I feel like in this community, we have this like obsession with, more recently, I've noticed online, especially Facebook, and Tumblr, we have this obsession to bring out the voices of people who are more feminine, which I know is contradicting everything that you think that you know about this community, and I'll tell you why. If you look at the media and the trans men who are the most popular, they reek of masculinity. That's not a bad thing, I'm just telling you, like, they are super masculine.
You may be saying that you don't think that them being masculine wrong, but you're heavily implying it. You're heavily implying that there's some issue with them being super masculine. Look, I've said this in my previous video, but the reason why they're super masculine is because a lot of trans guys aspire to be that, and because a lot of trans guys are masculine in some way. Sure, you may be more of a feminine trans guy, you may not want to be that, but, like, is it really so important that we have every single type of trans guy represented? Like, I'm a nerdy science geek. Should that be represented as, like, the epitome of good-looking trans guys? No. The thing I don't get about this representation argument. Yes, I understand that, for example, in movies, it's important that actors of all races have opportunities to play roles in movies, given that they have the talent. But what I don't understand is the argument these people try to make with representation in terms of, like, People magazine covers and whatnot. People, like, they'll look at the people on the magazine covers and that will somehow, if they don't see themselves represented, that will somehow have a negative effect on them. And I really don't understand that. I get that people are definitely influenced by the media, but, like, I don't go out every day and think just because there's not, like a geeky skinny guy on the cover that I'm somehow oppressed. Like, that's not how it works, man. That's not how it works. And the truth is, trans guys are a very small minority of the population. There's not gonna be a lot of them to begin with. And the truth is, whether you like it or not, the people who tend to be on magazine covers and in movies and whatnot are good looking. And the super masculine, muscular trans guys tend to be pretty good looking. Look, I really don't know what you're getting at here, man.
They go to the gym, they work out, they have wives, they have girlfriends, they're very confident, and they have all of these dominant roles that are very masculine and what society deems as masculine. I'm not saying that's bad, I'm telling you, like, that's what it is. Look at Aiden. Like, I'm not calling him out or anything, but like, masculinity right there, and he's very popular and a lot of people know who he is. Again, not saying that's a bad thing, but if you look on these groups on Facebook, it seems that a lot more people are finally embracing their femininity, and that's fantastic, and I'm so happy to see that. And people are telling people it's okay that you can wear nail polish and makeup, and if you want to wear dresses, do whatever you want. It's your life, it's your transition, it doesn't affect anyone else. And I think that is really great, and we're like changing the way people see gender.
What do you mean changing the way people see gender? You're talking about gender roles, man. You're not talking about gender. You're talking about gender expression. Like, I get it. You're saying that, oh, trans guys don't have to be super masculine, they can be feminine as well, and that's fine. But that's changing people's view on gender roles. That has nothing to do with gender, except for the whole thing, like, it can trigger dysphoria, maybe, but I don't know what you're getting at, man. Like, everything Chase does, literally every one of his videos, is like, I'm challenging the roles of society. He wants to be rebellious so badly, and he just fails miserably every single time.
Especially in this community. But what I've noticed is, like, the shift from everyone making sure that they're paying attention to masculine folk.
Masculine folk? Are you turning to Steve Shives now? What is this? Honestly, why do these people say folk in such an unnatural way, too? It's almost like they don't want to say people because they don't want to insult other kin or something like that.
And that's the ideal masculine trans male body, has like shifted to everyone needs to be feminine and okay to embrace femininity, and then it looks like everyone who's masculine is a bad thing.
I'm glad you're acknowledging this, Chase, and I'm glad that you've definitely seen that shift in society, because I would 100% agree with you there. Masculinity is being condemned as a bad thing, and not just within the trans community, but just in general, it's seen as a bad thing. It's seen as something inherently bad to be male. In the modern wave of SJW feminism, men are often seen as being inherently aggressive, as being inherently rapists, or at least inherently having the potential to be rapists, and women not having that potential for some reason. Men are truly being demonized, I feel, at least within the SJW ideology. So I'm very glad that you're acknowledging that, Chase. But why are you talking about toxic masculinity then? Why are you acknowledging that this is a real problem and then going to perpetuate that problem? You know, Chase, you know, or at least you're acknowledging that masculinity is not a bad thing. Masculinity and femininity are not bad things. They both balance each other out. They're both fine. I don't see why are you making this video?
And I will not lie, I definitely have this thought in my head where masculinity to me is equated with bad. And like, anyone who is masculine or has masculine features, like not like physically, but like in their demeanor and their roles and stuff like that, is a negative connotation. And I think that there's no medium. It's like all the way that way or all the way that way. So this video is about how it's okay to be masculine, but there's a line. And the line right here is toxic masculinity. And trans men seem to, flip over that line like that.
So what you're saying is that it's okay to be masculine, and you're trying to take away that stigma, which I 100% agree with. But then you're saying, oh, there's a line. You can be masculine, but not that kind of masculine. I mean, that's pretty sexist, to be honest. That would be like saying, you know, you can act stereotypically black, but you can't act that form of stereotypically black. Like, it honestly sounds like that. I mean, if you're saying the same thing for femininity, you know, maybe I would disagree to some extent, because I don't think there's, like, inherently bad parts of femininity or masculinity. There are certain bad traits that can be associated with it, but I don't think those are necessarily inherent in either of those things. But at least I would be like, okay, you're being fair, you're being honest, you're being balanced. But you're not saying the same thing about femininity. You're saying like, oh, it's okay to express your femininity and everybody's embracing it, that's great. But then you're saying there's such a thing as toxic masculinity. And that really, it sounds so sexist to say that there's something inherent about either being or acting like a man. And it's funny how these people, these SJWs, only talk about toxic masculinity in the context of men. They never talk about it in the context of women, because there are plenty of masculine women. Why can't they have toxic masculinity? Why can't that apply to them? Why do you never talk about that?
And that's the problem with masculinity in this community, and I think why a lot of people who are embracing their feminine side, or people who are just maybe more neutral, because not everyone is super masculine, super feminine, but people who are maybe more neutral can kind of like, oh yeah, I totally understand the feminine part, fuck all the masculine trans guys. And I think that the reason is because that line of toxic masculinity is very easily skipped over.
So you're saying that the people are justified because there are masculine trans guys who cross the line. So what if it was the other way around? What if people were like, fuck everyone who's feminine? Would you be like, well, that's technically not correct, but they're kind of right, they're kind of justified. Would you justify that, Chase? Would you justify somebody hating on you for being effeminate just because there were like some bad effeminate people? You can't blame everyone for the actions of a few. You just can't do that. And it's so ironic how these very same people will look at terrorist attacks committed in the name of Islam and say, oh, not all Muslims, not all Muslims. But with literally everyone else, they will blame everyone for the actions of a few. They understand in the Muslim part, because for some reason that's an exception, but they don't understand it for literally anything else. I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
And it's like, there's not even a barrier, there's no wall, it's like you're just walking into it when you transition.
So the instant they transition, they automatically become toxic, but before they transition, they somehow weren't. But plenty of trans guys presented as masculine women before they transitioned. Plenty of trans guys acted just as masculine as they do now before they transitioned. Are you really implying that because they were living and presenting as female, they somehow couldn't have toxic masculinity?
And I think that the reason why people do that is because they're overcompensating their masculinity because they want to pass as male, as who they are in society, which I completely understand. I definitely overcompensated my masculinity, pretended like I didn't like Rent, and that I like did all these masculine things when I really didn't.
Okay, the overcompensation thing I get. That does happen a lot. Especially with trans guys in the beginning of their transition, and same thing for trans women and femininity. But I think what you're doing, Chase, is that you're projecting your internal issues with wanting to be hypermasculine and not actually realizing that with trans guys who actually are really masculine. You're acting like, for some reason, hypermasculinity is somehow forced or not genuine, and I can definitely say in some cases that is the case. Especially, for cases like, I don't know, teenage high school jocks who often act super masculine. Like, that's like a case of kind of forced masculinity that's not really genuine. But even when that does happen, and that's not even necessarily the case. Some people are just really masculine. Of course, nobody's 100% masculine or 100% feminine, but some people are just really masculine. That's the way they are, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you're saying just because it's forced and not really genuine, there must be something inherently terrible about it. And though, yes, there is something bad about kind of being forced to conform to those roles, in the sense that the person conforming to that isn't really being themselves, that does not mean that there's something inherently horrible about it that justifies an inherent stigma against all of masculinity.
But the concept of toxic masculinity is, I'm gonna say right now that it's rooted in misogyny.
Did he just say rooted in misogyny? Did he just say what? What? Why is every single thing rooted in misogyny for these people? Like, homophobia is rooted in misogyny. Transphobia is rooted in misogyny. Why is everything rooted in misogyny for these people? I don't get it. No, you just explained why trans guys want to be super masculine. They want to be super masculine so they can pass. And there are other pressures why guys want to be super masculine, often it's just to fit in with their peers, when you take that in a general sense and not just with trans guys. But it's usually not because of misogyny. Like, where did you even get that from? He just went from 0 to 100. I don't get this at all.
And go ahead and call me a feminist and close this video and give me the middle finger and comment some hate. But whatever. Trans men that I've seen, and I'm focusing more on trans men right now being okay to be masculine because that's the point of this video, but yo, trans men are some of the most misogynistic people I've ever seen.
I can't believe what is coming out of his mouth right now. Like, this is literally if any of you guys know who Prince of Queens is, and if you don't know, you should definitely go check out his channel. He's a gay man who talks about how feminists basically make the exact same arguments that he's making against trans men right now. And I didn't really see all these arguments being made against trans men. I saw like other arguments being made about trans men, but he's literally saying the exact same things. This exact same line of argument has extended to trans men. Like, trans men are next in line for all of this hatred and this unhealthy bashing. And like, it's so sad, it's so tragic, because Chase basically hates himself. He basically has legitimate internalized hatred of himself. And it's a shame, because they're trying to encompass all men, no matter how oppressed they may be on their hierarchy. Like, for example, first they go with the most easy target, the straight, white, cis men. So you have people like Steve Shives hating on themselves. And then you have gay men hating on themselves because they're next in line. And now you have trans men hating on themselves because they're next in line. This is the ideology that is coming for trans men, that is making us next in line for, like, the hatred and the ostracization, however you pronounce that. All of that. Like, he's parroting these arguments that he's been brainwashed into to basically hate himself. He's making literally the exact same arguments that feminists have been using against gay men. He's saying they're some of the most misogynistic men that he's ever met. That doesn't even make any sense. But feminists have been saying that gay men are even more misogynistic than straight men, and that apparently they sexually assault straight women frequently. I can't believe this. It's happening.
And I'm not like saying not all trans men. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that that line of toxic masculinity is so easily skipped over that in order to be seen as male and seen as male in society and by people around you and your family and your friends and your peers and the people that you work with, you need to be misogynistic.
No, that's not how it works. And this doesn't just apply to trans men. He's making these broad blanket statements about all men and about all masculinity. He's essentially saying masculine men must inherently be misogynistic in order to be masculine. It's funny how he doesn't apply this to feminine women. Shouldn't, by your logic, feminine women are inherently misandrist to be feminine? Yes, there are definitely some misogynistic men who may be super masculine as well, but that does not account for the majority of masculine men. Like, I know so many men who are masculine, they like sports, they're not super duper overcompensating masculine, like super jocks or anything like that, but they're pretty masculine, and they're not misogynistic at all. They, see girls as equal peers to them. I'm in a friend group with a bunch of guys who are into sports, and one of their best friends is a girl who's also super into sports. And they just see her as just one of their friends, as one of their peers. It's just so sexist what he's saying. Like, this is legitimately insulting. Not just to me, but to, like, all of my friends. Like, what are you saying? It's so sexist to say this. And I just hate his smugness with this. Like, he's saying this in such a smarmy, smug way. Like, oh, all these masculine guys, oh my god, they're all so misogynistic. But I'm not misogynistic because I'm feminine, ha 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 ha. Oh my god, Chase.
And some people don't even realize that they're doing it.
How condescending is he? Oh, these people don't even realize how toxic they're being. And, like, somehow you do. You're the enlightened one. You realize how bad they're being. And they don't. Look, again, I can understand this for, like, a very few select men. Not even trans men, but just men in general. Like Rushfi or whatever his name is, who are legitimately sexist. I haven't come across any trans men who are legitimately misogynistic. But yes, there are a significant group of men who are legitimately sexist, and they don't really even realize it because they're brainwashed into it. But that's a very small minority of the population. You're acting like this is like a broad sweeping statement that can be applied to all men. And that's the part that really irritates me. You're being so sexist right now, Chase. It's honestly blowing my mind. I mean, usually SJWs, even though they're usually pretty bigoted, they tend to hide it. But I've never seen somebody be this blatant about being this sexist.
But the second you're saying, like, oh, these bitches, and you're using derogatory terms towards women, and
the word bitch is used usually in a funny way, or even usually in a gender-neutral way if it's not in a funny way, like insulting people. The only way I've heard it used to refer to women specifically is like in a joking way, like not in a legit misogynistic way, like bitches be crazy, like in a joking way. I've never heard it used in a misogynistic way. I'm sure it has been used in misogynistic ways, I've just never come across that. But the fact that you're getting triggered over a single word that's been used in a whole different context of ways, just really shows to me you're looking for ways to be offended. You're looking for problems to call out. You're looking for things to call out as sexist. And that must just be such a miserable way to live your life, just looking at everything and thinking it's sexist. I know I'm rambling, but Chase, seriously, man, what are you doing with your life?
You're saying that women are only sexual objects.
Who says that? Who says that? Who legitimately thinks that? I mean, I hate these people who look at sexy women on magazine covers or in ads and think, objectification, objectification, we're not realizing that happens to men all the time and they somehow ignore it. Okay, fine, if you want to call it as objectification, fine. I don't think anybody legitimately thinks that women are objects because of what they see in ads or whatever, but if you really want to call it objectification, fine, but do the same for men, be fair about it, because it happens to men all the time too.
And all of these little things that I keep seeing on all these little groups, and even my friends have said things where like, oh, we should just go fuck that girl. There's a nicer way to say that. Oh, look, she's very pretty. Like, there's no way that you need to be so vulgar. And
okay, yeah, that is kind of rude way of talking about it, but like, who hasn't said something like that? That's like just a rude thing that you say kind of jokingly with your friends. Like, I'm sure there are plenty of women who are like, oh, that guy's so hot, you know, I'd love to fuck that guy. Like, I'm sure that happens for everyone, and yeah, that is a rude way of speaking about people, I guess, like a objectifying way of speaking about people, but like, everybody does that. That's not just men. Like, why is this only a problem with men do it? Why is it only sexist when men do it? And the thing that you said, like, it's, oh, even my own friends. This is how paranoid these people become. They're so afraid that even their own friends are horrible, misogynistic bigots. It's a witch hunt. That's what it is. It's a total witch hunt. And it's just such a shame to see, like, this is happening in real life for me too. You know, this is part of the reason why I started making these videos is because this is my life. People like this exist in real life. They exist in my family. They exist everywhere where I am. And it's just such a shame to see basically the entire mainstream left crumble and start eating itself and go into this witch hunt and making the few actual true liberals who stay core to their values look bad. And it's just a total mess at this point.